So what if I told you that you can create art in little bits of time? So if you don't have 4 hours to paint, that's okay. Don't cross it off your to-do list and make it seem like it's a huge lofty goal that you cannot achieve. Instead, please take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, take 20 minutes, pull out your notebook and make some art. That's exactly what I'm going to do today in real time. This is less than 20 minutes. I'm going to make a mixed media painting in this little sketchbook, and I want you to come along with me. Grab some paper, grab your notebook, grab some markers, pencils, pens, crayons, any one of those, even paint if you want, and join me. We can make art in little bits of time, and you will feel better after doing it. All right, this is my day-to-day notebook that I carry that has notes in it, has random drawings. I always keep a pack of crayons with me. So if my kids and I are stuck someplace or waiting in something, we can always draw. It's becoming very handy because I think it's kind of fun to use these fancy crayons. So pro tip, if you have young people near you, or even my mom will do this with me too if we're waiting for something, we'll just each take a page and start drawing. You can also paint in this. It's like an Italian notebook. They used to have blank ones, but the blank ones now are very hard to find. I can't find them for less than, a fortune. So I just paint over the lines and it doesn't bother me at all. I wanted to show you and just remind you, really, we all know this, but we forget, and I forget again and again and again. You don't have to set aside 4 hours to paint. If you have 20 minutes to paint, you can paint. And I forget this just as much, if not more, probably, than anyone else. So this is all real time. There are no cuts. This is just me painting for 20 minutes. Not even 20 minutes. So this is my fluorescent red. I love it. For some reason, it's my go-to right now. I'm using a color shaper. I'm using a couple scraps of collage. I'm using my Neocolor crayons, 1 and 2, so water soluble and non-water soluble. And I'm just making marks. So whether you are coming out of holiday frenzy or you're just looking for something to do in your spare time that is going to add value to your life instead of doom scrolling on Instagram, please pull out a notebook and just make some art. You don't need to have paint with you. You can just use crayons. You can use just collage and glue some things in with a glue stick. You can make this as simple and easy as possible so that it's something that you can just grab and do without thinking too much. I'm adding some Celadon. I'm just putting the paint directly on the page. I'm not using a palette even. I have no side paper to mix anything on. This is all straight from my paint tubes. I put them in squeeze bottles, but nothing's been mixed here. Again, this does not have to be fancy or sophisticated or anything else. I'm filling up a page, moving paint around. And even here, where this is nowhere near anything I'd, think would be remotely finished, it still feels good to put paint on paper. So I was feeling overwhelmed. I decided I would do this. And already I'm feeling good. It's been 3 minutes. Nothing here has taken more than 3 minutes. And life already feels better. This is a Neocolor crayon. This is a Neocolor 2 crayon, I think. So it's water soluble. I'm lying. It's a Neocolor 1 crayon. But again, I'm just making some marks. And I had spritzed some water on top of the Celadon so I can have some of that fluorescent red poke through in little water droplets. So that made me happy. I'm doing this specifically to show you and remind you that you don't need to have giant pockets of time to do this. As I record this, my children are outside my door. They are running amok. I have more kids in the basement playing video games just underneath me. So there are people everywhere, but I'm still in my art room, stealing away for just a few minutes, just to keep my sanity. This is some red iron oxide, and I'm applying it with a baby wipe, so it's more of a glaze. I can wipe off what I don't want if it's on top of paint. There's some areas where it's just raw paper, and you can see that those areas, like that bottom middle section, it just gets soaked in right now to the paper right away, and that's fine. I typically don't gesso my pages. I know that a lot of people do. I don't know if it's laziness or efficiency, but I like to just get going, and I don't know. I don't mind the raw feel of raw paper. So I don't mind things soaking into the paper. If you don't like that, you can put down a layer of gesso, or you can also mix gesso in with your paint. So I like to use clear gesso for that because then it doesn't change and make everything pastel. But you do you. So this is already a fun background. It's been 5 minutes, guys. 5 minutes. I could just as soon walk away from this and still feel good about it because I made something. You can use as much time or as little time as you want, and I'm saying this to myself just as much as I'm saying it to you, you don't need to set aside hours to paint. You can walk into your room, close the door if you have a door to close, and paint for 5 minutes, and then go about your business. And I'm telling myself because I often think, well, I only have 10 minutes. I'll just look at Instagram real quick. And it's never real quick. It always takes more time than I think it's going to because I get sucked in. And I never feel great about that use of my time. I never feel like, I'm so glad I checked Instagram. I'm so glad I saw all the things my friends are up to that I'm not doing. I'm so glad I saw all these people who are wearing string bikinis at the beach while I'm in my winter coat, hunkered down in Chicago. Right? It's never like a, yes, I'm so glad I did that kind of thing. Instead, I've just wasted time that I could have been painting. And I often think about that too. I think, well, that was a half hour. I for sure could have done something in a half hour. Oh well. So this time I didn't. This time I said I'm going to make something in my notebook. It's not even a sketchbook. This is just regular paper. There's no watercolor paper here, nothing fancy. Literally nothing fancy. Well, it's an Italian book, so maybe that's fancy, but you could use a Moleskine. You can use, a regular notebook paper or printer paper. This does not need to be anything fancy. You'll notice that my pages will probably curl up on the corners because this paper is not meant for wet media. However, it's not a problem because this is a journal and it even has a rubber band around it, so I can just close it up and it will flatten out on its own. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about this as a means to selling art. I'm not worried about putting this into a frame. This is just for me. It's just my little notebook. I love having it with me. It reminds me that art is accessible. Even when I forget, and again, I forget all the time. This is what I could not preach this more. And yet I also forget, which is probably why I tell you guys so much that it is doable because I'm telling myself. And what is it about humans that we forget as soon as we do the thing? We forget that we can do the thing. I don't know what it is. This horrible, short-term memory insanity. But every time I do this, I'm like, oh, right, I can make art in a very short amount of time. Why don't I do this every day? And I don't do it every day. So My goal this year in 2025 coming up is that I want to do this every day, and I'm hopefully going to keep reminding you that you can too. And I need you guys to remind me when I forget. Deal? All right. So in the comments, anytime you comment on my art or my videos, please feel free to remind me that I can do this in a very short amount of time. This is a knitting needle. I did use the watercolor or the Neocolor 2 crayons to do that dark green. And then I took gloss medium and smeared it around just to get the essence of the green so it wasn't a defined line anymore, which also works a bit like a glaze, even though you can still see where some of the lines were. I'm muting my hair dryer for you. Sorry about the focus changes. Wanted to make sure it was completely dry before I went to my next layer. It was really fun making this to this point because I did have people all around me in the house, except not in my room with me. So I was sitting there knowing that the world is going on around me and recognizing I didn't have to be part of it for these 20 minutes. So it did feel a bit like cheating. Like I found some sort of pocket of time in the universe that I could just take for myself. And no one really missed me. Everyone was doing their own thing. Just 20 minutes. Not a big deal. This is my little collage scrap box. It just has recent scraps. Some of them are very small. I don't even know why I keep them, but I keep them. Shout out to all my other paper hoarders. I know you understand. I grabbed a few pieces that seemed like fun, that seemed that they kind of went with what I was doing. Some warm colors and a couple cool colors. The image I have in the background right now, very few things are defined at all. It's very flowy and very loose and open. I wanted to add some shapes that were more defined and crisp. Had firm edges. Even though these are circles, they're more crisp circles. And it looks more like lines. And I know that you guys can probably hear the voices around me as I'm surrounded in this house. It is fun to be in the mix here. It's fun to be in all of the melee. It is also so nice just to take a minute to myself. I know that many of you who watch my channel are caretakers and moms and sisters and brothers and all the people doing all the things. And so few people are not busy. I feel like everyone would say they're busy with something. So I get it. There's always something going on. It's hard to take time for yourself, especially for taking care of other people. But this is 20 minutes. I promise you can find 20 minutes in a day, in a week. Anytime you're able to take some time for yourself, please do it. Please put your phone down. Again, I'm saying this to myself just as much as I'm saying it to you. Put your phone down, grab your paint, grab crayons, grab a pencil and make different lines and push harder on the pencil sometimes than others. Doodle in the margins of your grocery list. Draw next to the Sunday funnies in your newspaper. Paint over an old book. Tear up an old book and fold it into different shapes. Do a little origami, see what you come up with. We do not have to paint the Sistine Chapel to be creative people. We do not have to be the next Picasso to be creative people. Do not have to have an artist loft in New York in 1960 to be creative people. We can pull out a notebook, smear some paint around, add some paper, and make something that that didn't exist until we made it. That's the fun of art for me. No matter if I like this page or not, it didn't exist until this very last minute the way that it is now. It's been 14 minutes. That's it. I've added some collage. I've added some more paint, a whole bunch of paint layers, added a little crayon. It's not the Mona Lisa, and I'm not trying to make the Mona Lisa. I'm trying to relax myself, enjoy myself, and give myself a break. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And I would bet a lot of money that if you take 20 minutes and draw, paint, collage, doodle in a notebook for just 20 minutes, that you will feel proud of yourself, that you will feel like you did something that matters, even if it only matters to you, but you created something that wasn't there until you made it. And that's saying something. I feel like most people go through life not creating things. And we wonder why we feel blah and stressed out and uninspired and like shells of who we used to be. But we've stopped imagining, we've stopped playing, we've stopped enjoying the present right now. Instead, we're thinking of, well, someday, maybe if only I had. And please consider this your invitation to just do it now. The sticker on the very front of this notebook says, do the thing. And that's what I'm trying to remind myself to do and remind you to do. Don't wait until you go back to art school and figure out proper perspective and how to draw realistically, yada, yada, yada. If that's your plan to go back to art school, awesome. But please don't wait until your first day of school to create. You don't need anyone to tell you how to create. We forget this as well. You can just pull out crayons and scribble. Please do that. It is so much more fun than you remember it being. And does it seem juvenile and does it seem unnecessary? Sure, it's unnecessary. It's not gonna, feed any starving children. It's not going to, do something quote unquote productive that someone can see the measure of. You're not going to sell it for $500 and get money out of it. Probably. But it is productive and that you get to make something new. You've just made something, right? Whether you like what I've made or not, I just made it. It didn't exist before. And how cool is that? I don't know. I know I'm beating a dead horse. I think that's really fun. And how much more special is it that you're making it in the margins of your life? So you're still getting all your other things done, right? So you miss half a TV show to do this? Okay. I mean, if you really need to watch the TV show, you could probably do this while you're watching it. I don't think we need to set as many limits to keep ourselves from art as we do. I think we often add a lot of hurdles that we don't need to making art. Again, mine is always time. I always think I don't have enough time for this. There's not enough time. But I hope you're hearing me say it 19 times in the last 18 minutes. You have enough time. You're not going to paint the Mona Lisa in 18 minutes. No one is. But that's not our goal. That's not my goal. It's not my goal for you. My goal for you is this, that you'll start. Just start something. It's like when you get on the treadmill. If you tell yourself you're going to get on for 4 hours, you're probably not going to get on. If you tell yourself you just need to do it for 5 minutes, you'll probably do the 5 minutes and you'll probably stay on a lot longer because you're already there. Once you do the thing and get out the crayons and start coloring, now you're in the zone and now you can keep playing. So I hope that you will try this. I hope that you will steel yourself just for a few minutes in the busyness of every day and enjoy and play and have fun. So let me know in the comments how many minutes you're gonna create something for today. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Let me know in the comments and let me know when you actually do it. I want you to come back and write again and let me know.